start with... wacht even. Live begrepen. And that we are sharing. And we're like recording it as well.
Okay.
Yes. Hello, lovely people. Today we come together and today it's time to rise and unite and talk about going down the rabbit hole. So we're going to be talking quite some interesting topics. We have one person still connecting, so we'll see if it works. Hopefully we hear you, Valerie. You're very welcome. We started. Hello, lovely people. Today we come together. It's a bit... I have to...
Sorry, I think it was me.
I hear myself sometimes. Talk about I have to put...
no, that's not me.
Yeah, the YouTube out. It's a bit later, so that's now gone. Yes, so it's all good. And Valerie is still connecting with the audio, and the number is gone now, so we'll see if it works. Everybody very welcome. We're going to be talking about some interesting subjects. And first of all, we want to say a disclaimer. Everything what we're saying is for entertainment purposes only. We did a lot of research and we encourage you to also do your own research. So whatever we're saying is mostly our own perspective, and some things we maybe agree upon and some things not, and it's all good and fine. And like very, very welcome, everybody. We don't know if we can hear Valerie yet, but we'll see if it happens. Everybody very, very welcome. Also, everybody welcome who is watching this. And the first question is, what is, like, whoever feels the call to answer, feel it. And what is something that you think everybody should know about this reality that they might not know yet? Is that something you want to share?
Ladies first.
Anybody feels the call?
Okay, but there are so many different angles to go from. So I'm going to stick with the mass hypnosis and the division, because I think if there's so much division, wherever you look, there's division, division, division. It might be color, it might be gender, it might be countries, but that division is being pushed on us to create fear so that we're then more malleable and more controlled. That is fake, because that's been pushed on us. Because if you unwrap us all, we're all the same, aren't we? We can tolerate everybody, that to me, that's the number one thing. There are lots of others, but I'll just say one to start with.
Okay, then I'll take the second, I guess. Yeah, I totally agree with the division part. I would call it fragmentation. One humanity, and we keep breaking it up into different pieces. And all these pieces mean, of course, conflict. But I would say that I think that most people also don't realize is that we're being conditioned from childhood on to let our minds dictate what we're seeing, how our perception works in this world. And most people don't even realize that. Yeah, I would leave it at that for now.
We'll add on that they also keep us distracted on purpose with football, sports, wars, elections, celebrities. All these things are all just to distract us so that we don't have time to actually focus on ourselves and know who we are.
Yeah, that everything seems different. Like when you're growing up, you think it is in a certain way, and then you find out, like when you like unblock a bit, then you find out things are totally different than they've been taught to you. And I feel also people have like once they go on the road of getting to know themselves and getting to know this reality, they find out like deeper deeper truths and deeper knowledge and deeper information, and then things are differently than they've been told. And yeah, that is like one of the main things, like having an open mind, being open to like what other people are saying, and your truth is not always your own truth. Like and that is really important, because there's so many different really crazy things that you find out. Maybe some of you want to share one of the things that they find out is like really like a bit like crazy in this reality.
Okay, I'll take this one. What's the most crazy thing in this reality? Yeah, that's kind of bordering on what I said before. For me, the craziest thing was realizing that my mind paints my perception, and realizing that it starts at a very young age, and that most people don't even realize what's happening. We all think it's the curriculum, that's what's inside the books. But I think the most plain example is that we've been conditioned to always seek an authority outside of ourselves, which is the teacher. And as an adult, most people don't realize they're still doing the same thing. When they don't know it spiritually, they're going to look for the priest. If they don't know it politically, they go to the politicians. And the most crazy one, I think, is when you don't know yourself, you're asking a psychologist, who am I? Well, the knowledge is in there, and you're asking somebody outside yourself, and he's then supposed to heal you. So yeah, from that you go into many different rabbit holes, I guess. But I think that's the main one. That's the craziest one. That we're basically being conditioned to do it to ourselves. We're our own jailers if we don't pick up on this. Yeah.
Can I add on to that? Because
Sure.
one of the biggest things for me about that is the way we are told things like putting fluoride into tap water, which blocks the pineal gland, which means that your connection to your spirituality, to who you really are, is blocked, it's calcified. And certainly in the UK, I've heard, I don't live in the UK, but I am English, they're adding more fluoride at the moment into the tap water. That's happening, that's just been passed by the government this week. But also you look at other things which allow us to tap into ourselves, such as some of the plant medicine and CBD and all these things which have been known to help us reach into our own true power. And over the years, they've had various things coming down to block their use or to make it difficult to use. And I think it's that, to me, once you realize that, you realize they don't want us to be ourselves. They don't want us to tap into our inner power. And because once we do, then we're powerful. Because we know we've got the courage in here and not out there. But I totally agree. We're taught to ask your parents know, your teachers know. You outsource decision making from as soon as you're born, pretty much, aren't you? Terrific.
Yeah, totally agree with it.
And I would like to add on to that that I don't know how many people know that our television is for the programming of us, and that's been happening as far back as the 60s, if not earlier. And when we stopped watching television probably about 20 years ago, we decided like no more television for us. And like and that's not like we don't watch any television. I mean, of course I still watch movies and things, but like the fact of like that habit, I remember growing up, my parents like 7 o'clock, it's the news, everybody sits down to watch the news, you know, and that kind of thing. The TV was always on for the news. Like when you realize that it's all just there to program you, and like that you don't need to know about somebody in another country's problems. Like, you know, we're not made to have to carry all the world's problems.
Yeah, exactly. That's I can even expand on that. I have an experience in addiction care, with game addiction specifically. We found out that your brain cannot make a distinction between what it's seeing and what it's actually experiencing. For instance, most people know the feeling when you see somebody hit his finger with a hammer, that you subconsciously pull back your own finger. And what turns out to be is that when you if you put two people on an EEG, you can real time look at the brain, and the person looking at somebody hitting his finger, the same fear regions and the same regions of the brain light up as the person actually hitting his own finger. So for your brain, there is no distinction. That's why we can live inside this box that we call television and actually experience adrenaline rushes and sadness and all these things. Because for your brain, you're actually in there. And then it gets stored as a memory, which is what they actually now using to program us. Because if you come into a situation that you've never dealt with before, your brain will just hand you these memories, which they think are your own. And that's how you can deal with people like. I see a big example, the desensitizing of people. If you see a lot of these things, I used to think Rambo was cool when I was a youngster, and now I realize it desensitizes me for killing and doing the most gruesome thing that we as a human can do, taking another one's life. And now it's being done casually in all these movies, and you see youth and people more casually thinking about it. Or it's in another country, and the division plays a part in that. Well, it's not our club, then it's okay. But it's all humans. There is only one humanity. That's the fact. So yeah, I would leave it at that for now, I guess.
Yeah, and also even in children's animation, like the violence and the just like thinking of like Bambi mothers dying in the beginning. Like it's like so many videos when you look back, like so many trauma and all sorts of movies and things. And I'm like, now you look back and fairy tales, and now you look back at it, and it's like it's also like a lot of times desensitizing. So we don't like almost like when there's people being killed, like we almost think that's normal, like we shouldn't normalize that, and like every killing is like really bad, and also how they lie about all of these wars, and like then we find out they lie about everything. It's like really like and people really believing everything what they say, they see on the television and the newspapers. But the more you look at it from a different perspective, then you find out like, hey, that politician was not right, that the priest was not right, the teachers were not right, like, and also about health, like the doctors, like there's like then you find out that it's just for profits, and they don't want to actually help you. They don't go to the cause. They give you mostly pills. And they really don't like, and then they're like, then you find out there's like natural cures for everything. And you don't have to put anything like, but you don't even know what's in there in your body. Like that is for me, like really like taking back the power over your own health is one of the biggest things for me as well.
One of the things that makes me laugh a lot is if you have an allergy and you go to a restaurant, and I have a daughter who has a gluten allergy. So when you go to a restaurant, you say to the chef, oh, you've made this, can you tell me the ingredients? And nowadays, if they can't tell you what's in there, everybody goes, ooh, don't like that restaurant, that chef's not very good. Oh, how about we take that model into the doctor's surgery? Can you tell me what you're going to give me? Nobody does it. Nobody does it. If they had the same attitude, and this is what you're saying about being programmed, if we had the same attitude for walking into a restaurant and saying, oh, I know that's not very good for me, so can you tell me if it's in there? If we had that for walking into the doctors, it would be very different. So it is, as Guillaume said, it's all perception to what we think is accepted. This is what we're allowed to ask this when we go into restaurants, but I have to take that bit of my brain out, and be critical thinking goes on hold when I go and talk to the doctor, because he's got a white coat and he's been learning for 8 years or 5 years. Forget the fact that it's funded entirely by the pharmaceutical company for profit, and that they do 1 hour on nutrition as doctors, 1 hour in the whole of their medical degree. I mean, it's nuts. The level of programming is absolutely crazy across all areas. And the politicians are just puppets, aren't they? They're not really in charge. We're not really voting for the people in charge, are we?
Yeah, I want to add like on to that, like for instance, the example in my life where I thought the childhood shots, I thought they were mandatory in my country, in South Africa, and I just assumed everybody has to have them. And I never questioned it with my first child. until like a year and a half later, and other people were asking me questions about it. And only then did I actually start thinking about it and realizing, like, hey, wait a minute, we can actually refuse these things. That you actually don't have to take them. Like, it's your right to say no, and it's not even a big deal, you know. Like, you can just say no. And it was the same with schooling, like schooling in the Netherlands. Like, you know, people think you're not allowed to homeschool here, and like people tell you it's illegal, but it's not. You can, and it's like totally fine. And it's like, just because people don't ask the questions. I didn't ask the questions, but now I do.
Yeah, and also Guillaume, when you said about like video games, like when you find out like we're like what is this reality in general? Like this whole plane, what is this? Is this a simulation are we in? Are we in one big experiment? Who started this? What is like our purpose? And the more you go into that, like, and there's like really deep things, like they're like really like we can be like an experiment of like alien species or wherever people come from. And then you also find out like, yeah, do aliens exist? Now, some people do believe, some people don't. Some like other people believe like there's like a different race that took over this reality. But it's like when you go into it, like really, like I don't know what it exactly is, if it's like demons or like vampires or like some people say also like reptiles of like or like interdimensional, like coming from another plane, like the astral planes. Like I don't know what it exactly is, but I know that they're influencing people and they're influencing beings, and they really wreak havoc here on this reality. And that's why we also yeah, there's like really like bad things happening, like the experiments on people, the things that happening with children. And that is something that is like one of like the deepest rabbit holes that is like quite heavy. But once you go into that, then it's like you find out there's so many women, like people speaking up about being victims of like large networks of people abusing children and doing all sorts of rituals with them as well. But in the beginning you think like, no, this can't be. But then you find out like there's so many victims. And now Anneke Lucas also has this really one victim that's really outspoken, also now have a podcast as well. And now you see it from coming from out of all different countries, people sharing about that. And I think this is also one of the like heavier ones. Like what is like maybe you share your views on that as well.
Sure. Yeah, well, you take on many subjects actually, but let me start with the first one. My view on that, at least. Look, we all grow up as children, and when we ask the difficult, the existential questions, who am I, where do we come from, what are we doing here? Most of us, we get like, oh, don't ask difficult questions. We tell you when you're old, when you're an adult. And I heard it from somebody else, but it always stuck to me. When you're an adult, and somebody says Mr. or Mrs. to you, you're like, I'm an adult now. Where is my manual? Where is my briefing? And you look around you, and nobody knows. Just a lot of people acting like they know, but nobody really knows. It looks like it's been taken from us. Our real history. You can look at indigenous people, and you get a small taste of what it used to be. And yeah, I'm a European, so I looked at my own history, and you actually see an organization. I will not name it right away, but you see an organization that forbade writing and sharing knowledge. Yeah, they actually made a few events where they would burn people who had some knowledge about stars or healings or whatever history. That actually continued that for about 1,000 years, maybe. It's all history, this. And then suddenly, out of the goodness of their heart, they started to make schools and they actually write to each other about this. Like, we give now knowledge to the new future, or the new era. A phrase that we keep hearing until today, and it actually hooks on to what we talked about before, because this way of schooling puts us in our mind. We're being put in our mind and into matter. Well, we're basically finding out now we're not mind people. We're people from the heart. Our intuition comes from feeling, and this mind is very limited. So to have a schooling system all over Europe having been rolled out, putting people in their minds, and from there on, you can see that they kind of rolled it out over the world. We were going to bring civilization to the world. Well, it's actually a sarcastic term, I think, because Western world was never really civilized. If you go look to the people where they went to, we couldn't understand them, so they were stupid. That they were running around naked and not sexualizing that, and we saw a nipple and it was all sex. Well, that should have given us a hint who is the civilized one over there. And with all our knowledge, well, basically people were walking around in their underwear and they were surviving in jungle and in desert. And these Europeans, even with their guides and all their stuff, well, they would last for maybe 3 or 4 days. And with good malaria, and then who's the stupid one? So those are realizations that I got growing up and looking at it factually, and like, that's where it started for me. That you see, like, hey, we're being pushed into the wrong direction, and the more you face the other direction and you go for the insight and you let go of your mind, that's where I think the real reality is to be found. And maybe it's still something that we have to explore. It's something that we can create. I also see a lot of the things that you, and if I'm getting too long, just cut me off, but the part where you're talking about aliens, one of my old loves is Graham Hancock in the 90s. He had the fingerprints of the god. And I was a curious kid, because when I was 12, I also had like this talk that you had to do, and kids would always make a talk about their bunny and whatnot. And I was somehow I was fascinated by the Egyptians, so I knew exactly what he was talking about. I even had a picture of this sphinx with this encasing, where you can see what later was also proven by some geologists. It's water erosion, what you see there, and it's all very factual. So you go drill in the ground, and then you find very factual. It's been over 10,000 years that it even has rained there, and then you need a long period of time for it even to erode in that way. So from there on, you see, basically now the last 20 years, I think they found stuff all over the place. You got Udang Panang in Indonesia, you got Yonaguni in Japan. You got some city that came out in the open with the tsunami in 2004 or 2005 it was, I think. So it's popping up all over the place. We find these old buildings all over from an era where we're being told that those were just hunter-gatherers and they were like silly and hunting around with some spears and some stuff. Well, no, most of these buildings we cannot even make if we wanted to do it today with all our knowledge and all our stuff. So something is going on there. And yeah, I can understand that people would say we cannot do it, so it must be aliens. I actually have my own theory is that we're being made more stupid by the longer that we go. The people were very smart back then. They could things that we don't even think are possible, and we see it in my lifetime. I see people getting more stupid by the day. I know cashiers who knew the content of an whole store, and he could blindly type it into some cashier machine. And now I see people scanning all day, and they get all confused if you ask them. If you pay them like specifically with extra change so they can give you the return money more easily, that you see them go crazy because they cannot even do in their head the simple math to you can just give me €5 now instead of all the change. Oh no, I don't understand. So that, and the last part, the spiritual part, I think is I think lately I'm getting drawn more and more to that, because I'm always looking at the indigenous people. That's where the least distorted part of what we have as history. It's only we are being told these people are stupid, and those are fables and myths and whatnot. But if you look at them, well, they've always been warning about some spiritual side. It also hooks into that pineal gland, which you can basically activate if you put some plant medicine into yourself. It's like your mind gets disconnected and your perception changes. It's not like that you get dulled down like with alcohol, because you have all the memories from your journey, So your perception changes. So I'm inclined to say it's more likely that we're being influenced by these spirit beings, which probably are around us all the time, because you just cannot see it without that sense that has been turned off since childbirth. And then, yeah, you see a lot of people trying to dabble into that, to tap into that. And then I'm always a little bit hesitant for that, because I think there is a big reason that they always there was one person in charge of that, and that would be the shaman. And he would know what he was doing. And now sometimes I see people going into the forest during Samhain or whatnot, chanting and conjuring. And I think the Lord knows what they are actually conjuring, because I'm pretty sure they don't even know it themselves. It might be a little bit dangerous. But I think it might be explainable. We don't even need these aliens. All this stuff was already here on Earth. And there are old legends and stuff already explaining these things. It's just that we're not allowed to look at it anymore. It's the new history and the new, the prescribed reality that we actually need to adhere to. So I would say be mindful about making it into a truth. I think we're in a stage where we're still finding out. It's like we're exploring what has been taken from us. But why is it so special for them to take away our history? Of course, because they can rewrite us in the way that they want us to, make us into material beings. But that's where we get lost. We know it's not fulfilling. We see it all around us. So before I start ranting, I will stop right here and give the ladies some room to react to this.
Well, I love that about Graham Hancock, and just picking up on some of the points that you were saying, because I think some of the history that is being discovered now is dating back for thousands of years, and the things that they're finding is being cordoned off by the governments, and that's when you have to go, that's funny. Why don't you want us to know? Why don't you want us to know about the technology that's being used to build these pyramids that are exactly in line with the stars or the solstice, or can generate power to make the vibration of the water that's in the rivers? The pyramid in Bosnia, the water that's in there is the cleanest, and the air in that pyramid is the cleanest anywhere in the world. And you have to go, why don't they want us to know? Why? I mean, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? How easy? I mean, how easy? How easy is it to build a pyramid? But relatively speaking, that could be an amazing cure for everybody, to have something that's a pyramid over a river that generates this energy, which is uplifting and really high vibrant. There, and linking that in with Greg Braden. I don't know if you know Greg. I love all his work. I know how he says that we have the technology within ourselves. We don't need to look at, we just need to learn to tap into what's in ourselves. My 14-year-old said to me yesterday, we only use 8% of our brain. So we know that there's more, we've got more capacity to do all of these amazing things. But going back to Greg Braden, I'm trying to weave in bits that I've been learning over the last however many years. And when you look at Graham Hancock, who brings in myths around the world and says how there is a point at which all of them say there is somebody who came after the flood, somebody came to help us. It doesn't matter where in the world he went. That was the recurring theme of his myth. If you tie that in with Greg Braden, and just stick with me here, this is Emma-ism trying to link it all. But if you tie that in with Greg Braden, who says that we have the technology within us, and then you tie that into me, I'm Rhesus negative blood type. And what I've been learning really, really recently is that the Rhesus negative blood type happened, it came out of nowhere onto Earth. All of it, everybody was positive blood types, and then suddenly, bang, you get a whole bunch of people who are negative. So I'm going, is there some kind of weird link? Something happened to drop into our DNA, which made us change, some of us change, and made us able to do all of these technologies which have been hidden from us. I don't know. That's my what is reality and what isn't, what's our history, what isn't. There's so much we aren't told. Yeah, and that's where I am at the moment.
Well, I like to go mudflood hunting and Tartaria spotting Tartaria buildings. And it was actually wonderful moving to the Netherlands and having to be able to see that in real life, all this mud flood stuff and everything. And it's like that and locking in with the 1,000 years that they tried to add into our history that wasn't actually maybe there. Because when you can see on grave the old buildings where they have the I or the J in the beginning, which we interpret as 1650 something or something like that, 1652, but it actually says J 650 or something like that. It's so wonderful to be able to see this in real life. I have to go quickly.
And I don't know what she said, but at the end, but she had to go. But with Tartaria and so, a lot of times you see really high, big doors, and then you especially in old cities, and also that there's much more underneath. So that's what Liezl was also saying, the mud flood. So there are theories that we had resets, that whole civilization started again, and that was mud floods or the water, with the Ark of Noah. So that's but there was people saying that there were probably several resets, and then we got higher and higher. And the beings were also getting smaller, like Guillaume say, maybe more stupid, but also smaller. So in the old times, they were the doors were much higher, and wherever in the world you go, they have those big doors. And where I was in Brazil, they say, oh, it's because they had all horses in the house. They all have different reasons. But there's actual footage of pictures and videos of really big giant people and giant animals, and there's even bigger ones, people thinking that they are mountains. And there's someone, it's on YouTube, it's Mud Fossil University, and he did a lot of research on that, and he says it comes from human material that is now stoned. And that's something that is also once you see that more, also the forms of mountains and the form of certain mountains look like trunks of big trees, then we find out there's even more things that might be into the from this reality that we also it's almost unbelievable to fathom this, but you see the pictures, you see the videos, you see it coming by, and you are oh, that's actual possibilities of all that.
Yeah, I can maybe expand a little bit on that, because I remember a lady I used to follow on YouTube. I don't think she has YouTube anymore, but New Earth she used to call, was somebody from Eastern Europe. She was making a collection of all the weird places over the earth, and she actually had a big database of all over the world where the craziest buildings. And I remember things like huge stalactite kind of towers, 100 meters up in the air, with an entrance and a cave inside, but all the way up in the air, and no ladders or nothing. And a whole village with houses like this, which would make no sense. Yet they basically fly there to. And in China, there is many places where you look in a different earth, where they have buildings on top of mountains with no stairs, nothing towards it. I've been myself to a place in Sri Lanka. It's called Sigiriya Rock. It's a place where even the indigenous people didn't know. It's like a palace on top of a mountain, and it goes straight up in the air. There is no stairs, nothing. So how did they get all these stones up there and build it there? And all technology there. There is this swimming pool, and the level of the water is always the same. If it's dry season or rain season, the level stays the same. So it's somehow connected to some level down, and they barely know how to even. And these places are all over the planet. You have this place in Turkey where it's 13 stories down, a whole village, able to house almost 30,000 people with stables, meeting rooms, storage rooms. There is a ventilation system that they made, which still works up to today, which brings fresh air all the way down to 13 stories down into the rock. So you could, there's so much things that we don't know. And yeah, one of you already mentioned it. It's when I found out at first, your natural response is like, let's find out. And then you look around and then you see it's all being submerged. And then the giant part, that is basically a lot of newspapers from the 1800s, the early American, where they were blasting rocks all over the place, and they would find the craziest stuff inside of rocks while they were looking for gold. And there were actually newspapers going on about that, and we all know the Smithsonian story that many times many people say that, well, we found some of these giant bones and the Smithsonian came to pick it up. And if you go to Smithsonian nowadays, they just say, well, we don't know, we never seen it, and we never heard from this. So it looks like it's being something is being covered up, and we're not even going to look to the places like this Bosnian pyramid. Which, if you the Osmansky or something was the guy actually excavating it back then. I think he passed away by now, but he was actually going on about it. Whoa, he had a lot of pushback just trying to get people to even get to know about this pyramid. Well, I would say like, hey, we want to know our own history. Let's go look. Don't get me started about Iraq. They actually found the biblical cities there, and they got bombed into smithereens. So I'm sometimes inclined to maybe look back into our, you then come into the spiritual part, where you also have the stories of angels coming down to earth, breathing with women and making giants there. It's also in the Bible, it's in the Torah, it's in the Quran. It's even in the Baba Gita, I guess. They also have stories about the gods coming to earth and all kinds of mythical stories about that. I'm inclined to say, well, maybe we should look at it with a different perspective, with an open mind, because these people were not really into writing science fiction, I guess. That's basically being done now to get us more confused. That's a little bit my take on this. But I want to give a little bit room to Liezl, who had to go so quickly just now.
Sorry, I had to, family emergency. But how about we're talking about history and stuff that's fake. How about the moon landing? Like, I mean, the Red Hot Chili Peppers even said, like, filmed in a Hollywood basement, right? And Stanley Kubrick was the director and all that. So, like, what's everybody's thoughts on that?
Watch the documentary Level with me. And then that says already a lot. It's quite like NASA is also lying to us for lots of money, and it's strange. Like, why do the astronauts get diving? Like, why do they dive in those pools? And you see videos where they wear strings. It's like, and things falling down. Then you're like, huh? If you see the videos, Buzz Aldrin, who went to the moon, who said several times in interviews that he actually didn't go, like kidding, and then you have that guy who went to all the astronauts with his Bible and asked, like, do you want to swear that you were at the moon? And they were all very like angry and putting him away. But then like, and if you see the material, but then you have so many questions. You have like pictures also that you see, like the ceiling. How did they call with the landline? Now, like from the moon, they're like there. How did they? If you need like a big rocket to go out of space, to go up, with that fire on, how do you go once you're there with that little golden thing? How do you come up in the air there from that place? Yeah, I don't know. So there's a lot of questions. Like, it's very, very questionable. And why didn't they go again? And then they say they lost the technology. It's like, it's all like very not really believable.
We went to the, sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead, Emma.
I was going to say, especially when you see, so the people who've gone recently are India, but the pictures of that, I've looked at it and going, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's a joke. That can't be real. And then it was like, no, they've really gone to the moon. Like, really? so because I've always said, why has it taken so long to go back again? It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't have an answer for it. I just have to go, why? Anyway, Liezl, what were you going to say?
We went to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And then you get to see in real life, like the size of the little bit of rocket that they come back in from the moon. And it's like, you have to like sit like crawled up in a ball to even fit into this thing. And then there's like old astronauts like all around the center, like handing out coins from like their lodges. And it's like, it's, are these serious? Like, just like they just got some old grandparents to like come and stand around and hand out coins, you know, because it doesn't make sense. And then also like was it the Challenger, that one that exploded, but that the whole crew, like suddenly they're twins and their brothers and their sisters who are identical to them, like show up like a year later or something in real life, can continue living. Like that, yeah, it's, and then the millions and millions and millions that NASA gets per day. It's like, isn't it like $250 million per day they get or something in their budget? Yeah.
But also the trauma of the people watching that and thinking like the thing blew up and they were like, oh, people died. And then you see like they have the same names, the same faces. And it's so obviously like that it was all a lie as well. And they were not all having twins. It's like,
So I didn't realize
but
that.
it's also,
So they all came back the following year, people with the same names. I didn't know that.
in the same pictures. You can find on the internet, you can say Challenger and lie, and they're all alive. Yeah, you can check Google and on Facebook and stuff. People are sharing that. But it's the same with a lot of people that die, like a lot of artists. It's also like it's all like what you said, it's all to distract us. They have like different roles and they're actors. And I think all of them are actors, also the politicians are actors, and there's like, and then they die, and a lot of times, and they make videos of it before dying. And it's also like I saw recently a video of like David Bowie that he died. And then apparently one of his manager or something was on a talk show and it looked like him exactly. And it's like, yeah, they have like, they die off, their character dies off, and then they come back as a different person. And that is like, there's also whole theories about that online. So it's really interesting. Like people thinking like, oh, this person is this person, this person is this person, but you don't know what's real. Like that is the most crazy part of this. It's like you can't know anything what is real or not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I actually want to jump in on. I think that is a big part of the game that's being played with us, is to keep us off balance, so to speak. And it also ties into that moon thing. It made me think also about these old buildings, something that Emma said before. A lot of these old buildings seem to be lined out to actually as some kind of calendar clock to show us the longest day and the longest night, the equinox. And that seemed to be very, very special for these people. That their whole lives were around that rhythm. And we also know the circadian rhythm, and we also know that the moon has a rhythm, and that all these old, and even the indigenous people right now, they live according to the moon rhythm. And you as women, you know that even your body will start to, if you're actually in harmony with that, even your body will start to live in that rhythm. But almost everything that we do in the modern days, the calendar is not the same. We celebrate New Year in the winter when everything dies. Why not in the spring when everything starts to live again? That's the thing. It's not even on it's on a date on a calendar. It's not even the real longest day or the real equinox where we're celebrating these things. Our months are off. We have 12 months while there are actually 13 moons. The days are off. Even that Neil deGrasse Tyson, which they always have as the poster boy from knowledge, he actually has to say like, no, the days don't add. We have to actually add something to that. But in the old days, a day would just be noon, and it would be when the sun is in the middle, and that's where your whole body is actually also attuned to. And I'm going back to something that we were talking about also at the start. If your body is attuned to that, you're actually supposed, for instance, to eat while it's light, because then your pineal gland picks up light and it also produces serotonin, which helps you with digestion. If you never should eat when it's dark, because then your body produces melatonin, and that's actually it's to get you to sleep, but it's also your best antioxidant that your body can make to repair your body while you're asleep. But if we let people go on when it's night and day shifts, night shifts, and put that all out of whack, it seems to be all aimed at to not get us into our strength, to all distort and put it with the food and the radiation that's all around us these days. Maybe only that single thing wouldn't kill us, but all these things together, it seems to me that some people at a certain point get the threshold and your immune system just cannot take anymore. And that's when it starts to give you signals like, hey, we're doing something that's not healthy for me. And that's what we call disease these days. And then you're back to these so-called doctors, as they call themselves these days. They're not really healing you. They're just treating and suppressing most of the time symptoms. And I'm coming from the area of psychology, and I've seen the same thing there. And it's ridiculous. We're putting people under medications, but most of the time we don't even know what it's doing to them. But it makes them more easy to bear with, so they can go back into society and be a cog into the machine again. But that's not really healing people. So I think I have a feeling that it's all aimed at keeping us off balance, so we cannot stand in our own footprint anymore. We don't know where we come from. That's already no basis. We don't know who we are, what we're doing here. We don't have an agreed upon, what you say, like some rule or some credo that we all live for. You used to have that in a tribe. When you grew up in a tribe, you were told exactly who you are and don't compare yourself to other. You're running bear and you're jumping a rabbit, and it was not even a competition between each other. You were celebrating each other's strengths. Also in gender. I could go on and on for this, but I think that's enough for now. I want somebody else to.
Well, just to go on, like what you were saying, the lights and the circadian rhythm and stuff, and like how we now are sitting most of the time in fluorescent lights and in LED lights and things. And they actually, I saw, because I follow this channel, Cultivate Elevate. I don't know if any of you know it. And he spoke about like how the light bulbs, when they changed like the fluorescent lighting out of a classroom in a school, how much more better the kids could concentrate. Like when they were sitting with the natural light from the windows instead, the kids who were like labeled with ADHD and this and that and that, they could suddenly sit down and concentrate when they weren't anymore under the fluorescent lighting. And like now, I try and go to the supermarket and find a light bulb that's not a LED. It's impossible. You can't find any more light bulbs that's not LED. So then to get into like the light spectrums, like with the circadian rhythms, the like red light and the blue light, that we should look into the sunset and the sunrise and stuff. And that's another thing that gets programmed into us from TV, because like I always tell my kids, like, look into the sunrise, look into the sunset. And they're like, no, the sun's a deadly laser, because this is from the cartoons, right? It comes like little sayings that come through from the cartoons, like your eyes are going to burn and like stuff like this. But that's the safest time to look into the sun, right? But instead, the kids and us, we get all this blue light from our screens, because like life is so, I kind of say it these days, like life is actually so easy. Okay, for us in Western society, I mean, not for everybody, there's a lot of people with a lot of hardship, but I think a lot of like these people who are coming up with these trance ideas and all these kind of stuff, it's just because life is too freaking easy. Like you're just too comfortable. You've got food, you've got shelter, you've got nothing to fight for. Like you said, no purpose. And so like, then you come up with stupid ideas like, I don't feel like a man, I want to be a woman and stuff like that, because you have time to waste, because you're not out there fighting for your life and getting food and planting a garden and, stuff like that.
But also what you said about the ADHD, I think it's just like children that have a lot of energy, and children shouldn't be in a classroom sitting there all day. Now I see I'm like now already long time not in the normal system working again. Only later I found out how much energy that cost me. And also when they have like children have ADHD, then they give them also all sorts of toxins medicine, and that is also very harmful. And like this, like really, it's just because they can't contain them, and you have more of these children because they have a lot of energy, and this is not natural for them. They need to be outside, and they need to be playing. They need to do whatever they want to do, and it's really, it's like what most people, their most time is for the children and for like people also that like working, the most time of the day, like where energy goes to things that cost them a lot of energy. And it's like, it's your life energy that withers away. And then you go on, like 1 time a year on holiday, and you think you can, I can relax a bit, and then can I go back again? But that is not a life. People need to find out, like, how do you want to live your like everyday life, and do what brings you energy, and do what makes you happy. But a lot of times people find that out after they're like so unhappy on the job. I found out only after burnout. Like when I like unplugged, then I was felt like, hey, instead of like what society always asks of me, what do I want to do? That was the first time like that I wanted to ask me those questions, but it was like before not even thinking of that.
I think because we're too conditioned into going into an institution at school, going into an institution to university, going into the institution of the corporate world or whatever it might be, and it's all, you go along, you don't have to think. You don't ever, nobody ever said, if you ask kids when they're young, what do you want to do? Everybody goes, oh, how sweet, they want to be, whatever the answer might be. If you ask the same children when they're teenagers or maybe 17, 18, what do you want to do? I bet you half the answers people would go, oh, well, you can't do that. There's no money in that. You can't do that. No, you can't do that. No, no, no. All of a sudden the joy gets ripped out and they go, oh gosh, I can't do what lights me up. And that's what I think is what you're saying. And I think it's heartbreaking actually for the kids, because kids should be outside, they should be running around. When we took our daughter's never been at a normal school, and when we took her around her cousin's school, which is just a normal English school, and she peered in through the door and saw all these desks lined up, and she said, they have to sit at those all day. Just like, seriously, is that how people learn? No, it's not how we're meant to learn. We didn't do that thousands of years. The indigenous people don't do that. They go out and learn doing whatever it is that lights them up. But, and just coming back, I just want to circle back and talk about light, because that's massive. Light is massive. And I really think we haven't, again, been taught how powerful light is. And going out and getting the early rays of sun, as Liezl was saying, is really important for your circadian rhythm. Really, really important. And sunglasses being deemed as cool. No, get the sun into your eyes. It's really important. So that whole thing, that whole branding of, look at me, I'm really cool wearing my Ray-Bans. No, you're not. You're actually stupid.
And sunscreen.
To put it bluntly.
The whole story about sunscreen. Like this summer, the Netherlands was giving away free sunscreen on the beaches. It's like, do we really have to lather up in sunscreen? Like, you know, we haven't worn sunscreen for 5 years, and I've got a redhead as a child. Like, you know, when the sun's too hot, then just go sit under a tree or go inside for an hour or two, you know, go have a break, go have a siesta, and then go outside when it's nice again, you know, like, don't sit in the 12 o'clock sun outside in the direct sunlight, you know.
But, and did they have sun cream in Africa before 200 years ago?
I bet you not. They probably just put like beef fat on their face.
Exactly.
No, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it makes me also think about indigenous people, because that's the way I always think. Was there a refrigerator 100 years ago? Sunscreen? No, actually we have a body that's made to be outside all of the time. And the more you do it, we have this Iceman even showing it, even when it gets cold. You get your body get used to that again. It's just that most of our bodies also use it or lose it. So we're growing up inside a home with these warm clothing around us, and we get used to that, and your body just deteriorates because of that. And I also think that it has something to do with what we see as children, that they all gets forced into these cubicles. Well, I remember seeing one documentary once that in Japan they had a school where children would get all the space that they want, and there was this one guy, a small child, I think it was 5 years old, and he would keep running every day. The school starts at 8, and he would run all around for 3 hours straight. In the normal school, they would put him into like one of these boxes. Hey, sit still, and he would be labeled ADHD. But there he would get all the space that he needed, and maybe one of his talents is become one of the fastest runners that we ever had, or something like that. But you could see, and that was basically the premises of that thing, that if you give people the room to grow and to expand on their own strengths, then they develop themselves into more stable beings than what we're doing in our own society. Is like condition and not even let people learn, because the only thing that we're doing is copying knowledge. And that's what a diploma actually means. I'm very good at copying the knowledge and not even questioning it anymore. And that's basically what you see in real life. People just copy, and they're easy to manipulate in that way, because of our schooling, we even identify with this thought process. And I'm seeing more and more, it's like Michael Knight saying he's Kit. It's your board computer, which has to remember some stuff, where my house is at and what's your name, and we can tell each other how to build something. But because of our conditioning, we start to identify with it, and it starts to sit in the driver's seat. And I think that's also causing most of these problems, because even if you put away all the bad intent, if you're living from your head, you lose all connection with reality, because what's in your head is the past. It's a hard disk collection of all your memories, all your experiences, and that's the you. That's the you that we need to unlearn, so to speak. Because if you look at children, because that's what it hit me. Sorry that I'm going over your light, because that's also a very important part of it. But if you look at children, they're in the now all the time. They're also constantly, consciously in the now. And the older we get, the more we get driven into our head. And then the whole society is built around problems which make you think. Future, then I'm worried about something that doesn't happen, a fictional point where we never arrive. Worrying about being sad about the past, and there's even a whole industry around that, the psychology. But nobody's getting told, like, hey, you should just focus yourself on staying here and now. And you see indigenous people, they even have like these rituals where you become an adult, and one of the tests that they have to do is like keep your focus on the now for 2 days straight, and then you're an adult if you're able to do that. And here it's the other way around. And even our you want leisure time, you say, oh, now I can relax. Then we do the same thing. Then we go watch television, and we want to be entertained. It's just a tickling of the senses, so to speak. It's very shallow. While if you realize that in the now is all this time, I'm now everything that I have done before, and what I do now, that's what I am tomorrow. That's what made me quit smoking. Not I'm going to quit tomorrow. No, I'm quit here, right now. Here is all the time. But the systems that be, let's call it like that, or Mr. Global, or anti-life, as you like to call it, they're trying to pull you out of the now, where you're powerless, because then you can be ruled. Read that book from Harari. I've read it too. Yeah, he knows. He knows if I can influence the subconsciousness of people, they start to think that they think it up themselves. And basically, most people don't even understand. If I always make it very simple. I say, if I show you orange parts all day, and some rabbits and a Bugs Bunny, and at the end of the day I ask you for a vegetable, most people will come up with a carrot, and they will swear to you they made it up themselves. Do the same with nails and hitting stuff and timber. I'll ask for a tool, and say, oh yeah, it's a hammer. But that's very easy, simple way of what they now have very fine-tuned with this big data. That's why it's worth so much money, because now they know exactly what kind of color, what kind of sound, and what kind of thing to tickle you to make you decide to buy this car or to think in that way. That's why this dude's saying like, hey, it's free will, that's over. Well, that's what you think. I think and then I'll finish. I think the weapon that we have against this is become totally aware, and not the mindfulness as they coined it. No, we need to get that mind empty, like we see in making music and with playing sports. We call it in the zone. That's where I'll leave it for now.
Because I heard recently that the Lemurians had no memory, right? They had no memory. So every day was a new day. So it was easy to forgive someone. It was easy, you couldn't have war like that. You couldn't have an issue with anybody. Like, hi, how are you today? I cannot imagine how a life would be that where you don't remember yesterday. It's very hard to picture.
like a dog, I would almost say. It immediately forgets what you did to it, and it will just come to you and love you again.
And also what you said, like I feel like there's like people, like what you said, like in the now with from love and with like on the natural path. Like back to indigenous tribes, back to what they did. We take our power back. We do. We take our thoughts, what we think, what we say, what we do, what we focus on, and what we give energy. That is how we take that back. And you have another stream that you see is more artificial, AI, virtual reality. That's like they want you to be hooked on that, but you take it like by like also with everything you do, you hook yourself to the more the natural way. Like I even have it in my food. So it's like I feel eat more fruits, then I'm like much more like in my body. I feel the digestion goes good, and I feel more like aligned. But when I eat not so good things, then I'm really like not feeling so good. But it's like, yeah, you have to see it. Like you have to see it, and then you do have that choice. You have that. Yeah, you can take that back.
And the funny thing is, like what Julian was saying, like about the carrots and the pre-programming and how they know exactly. It's like they know all this information is known to them, and there are some people that want to share it with the rest of us. There's like a good side that want to share it with us, and then there's the bad side that want to keep it all to themselves. Like for instance, like with the manifestation and stuff. Like I've been listening to this podcast and I'm absolutely obsessed with about a guy from one of the secret societies, like trying to share the information. And he says it's literally 99% to 100% of what you think that creates your reality.
I will quickly respond to that, because sometimes it seems that's exactly how they're playing us. Doesn't mean if we agree or not agree with it. It's, also in the news you see it. As long as they got our attention. And I got a weird theory about it, like what we really are is that attention. You can put your attention on your thoughts, on your feelings. And if I put my attention fully on you, I'm not even there. There is no mind, there is nothing. If my full attention is on something, it usually works with nature, with sunset or it's beautiful. You're gone. The you is gone. There is only that attention. We can feel it even when somebody looking at you, when you're not looking at, or on the phone, when somebody's actually writing something down and not really there with you, you can actually feel that. I have some kind of, it's almost a theory, I would say, but it has something to do with that. So they're trying to steal your attention. I don't know if any one of you has ever stood on a stage. I've had some before, and it's like you're getting dosed with energy. And then imagine the Rolling Stones, who have 100,000 people all aiming their attention energy to them. No wonder they still want to do it when they're 70. But you can also see it when you're making something, like carving something. And the more attention you put there, the more beautiful. The more attention I put into my talking to you, real towards each other. That's especially in a relationship. There should be full attention, and it's getting pulled all over the place these days. People cannot even stay focused on one thing anymore. But I think that's where our way out is probably to be found, somewhere in that direction. Then I stop ranting again.
Yeah, that's maybe a good way to wrap it up. Say the way out is a good. Maybe anybody of you like wants to share a bit, like who you are, what you do, where you can like. I will put links underneath here, like where people can find you. If you want, you can send them to me. You can just share what what people can do, or like your message to humanity. So you can share your message and then share also share something about yourself and then share your message as well.
I'll share. I think just picking up on what was so eloquently discussed just then, I think dropping into your heart all the time, just if you can drop into your heart and feel your body, then it brings you into the present moment. And if you can do exactly what you were just saying, getting out into nature and feeling that awe. It's really simple just to go out and look at the sun or look at the sky and just go, oh, wow. And just for that moment, feel the wonder. Then it just recalibrates you, and it's free, it's easy, and it just brings you back into you. I think it's really simple and very, very, very powerful, because we need to be back in our heart space to then know who we are, bring us right back to where we started. Then we understand who we are. We know what's important to us. And this is where our power is. There's a greater energy that comes out of our heart space than there is anywhere else in our body. And I'm Emma, I'm English, and I'm in Portugal, and I'm an energy healer and a digital creator. And it was lovely to be here.
All right, so I want to say that for me, adding into what Emma said, I like how we're all adding on to the previous bit, but so for me, like about the heart, feeling into your heart, like for me, I think my message for everyone that I would like to say, and like I try to portray every day, is just to be happy right now. Just right now, feel good. And like, if you're not feeling good right now, go and listen to some good music or go outside into nature and change it. Change how you feel to feel good right now. And I think like that, just by each and every one of us consciously trying to do that a lot of the time, I think that will somehow just spill over like the frequencies and the ripples and the love to everybody else. So yeah, my mission is just to feel good right now. And I'm Liezl. I'm a homeschooling mom. I live in the Netherlands. I'm an expat. I'm a wife. I'm a student. I'm all the things. And I also have an online business that I'm very passionate about. And it's linked with water and linked with Emma as well.
Okay, I will try to keep it short. Message for the people. Yeah, I think I want to jump back to where we started from, this this fragmentation, this yeah, that we're being divided. I think maybe it's nice to remind people that we're all the same. And I know it's a saying, and people always like, yeah, but we're all different. No, I've traveled a lot over the world, and maybe some of you, I know some of you have also, at least you have done that too. And I started to see that our inner psychological being, like our feeling of anger, of joy, happiness, anxiety, loneliness, sadness, the suffering of the world, you never have to explain anybody how that feels. You never have to explain what is anger, what is sadness, what is happiness. That inner feeling, that consciousness, that's the same for everybody, no matter where you come from. The only thing that makes a difference is what's being recorded and how we deal with it. And I think if you can actually see that, then you realize there is only one humanity, and it's basically just you in a different body with different information, different DNA, different memory. But inside you're the same. You experience things the same. If you want to know how something feels, look at yourself and you know what you're doing to somebody else. And really realizing that, and just instead of just copying this information, go home and do your own way, but really realizing that might be able to change some people. So I hope some people can do this, even if it's one, it's enough. And who am I? I'm a Dutch guy. I used to be an IT engineer. It's very mindful, full mind. I did psychology for a while. Have a addiction care. Then I figured out I was being pushed into a protocol, and I just wanted to help people. Then I did geriatric care, elderly care for my grandmother for 5-6 years until she passed away. And after that, that's now one and a half year ago, I'm just figuring out what to do next, because somehow this society doesn't feel the same anymore. So I want to start something new, and I'm still figuring out where that place is going to be. But meanwhile, I'm just spreading the knowledge like Miss Hellbreaker is doing.
Oh, thank you all so much. Oh, I had some of them like chicken, like what is it? Not kippenvel, chicken. What is it like?
Goosebumps.
Oh yeah, goosebumps. Yeah, and in Dutch it's chicken. In English it's a goose. Like some things are the same, some things different. But it's like we're all the same, and we all maybe come from different places, come from different cultures and whatever. But once you find yourself again, once you find this, like once you have that awakening, then you're like everybody is like. It's like deep inside your heart, like everybody is brothers and sisters, and everybody, it's like then you come together in love and in inspiration and in creation, and you want to share and come together. So I'm really like happy with this co-creation that we did. And that is something that is I feel like that is the new earth. We're all going to be co-creating even more and more with each other and getting to know each other. And like what you said, like we all know certain, like we all know like fear and suffering and anger and stuff, but let's come together in celebration and in love and happiness and joy and share that and celebrate life. And like we can do that even more and be more like Liezl, what you said, being happy, and then the rest will come. And like remember that. And if you're not happy, then there's people out there that can help you. And I'm also one of those people. Like I'm also like I'm an energy healer. I do yoga, meditation, energy healing courses, other courses as well, talks. I have a podcast, like wherever I can share like seeds of awakening. And yeah, this always gets me very excited to talk about and everything. That's like, I think in the future will be like you'll be total transparent. Nothing is off the table. You can talk about everything. And sometimes I talk about things that are like a bit far off, but it's like that is also me, because I always and there was so much more things that we can talk about. It's like crazy how much, like it's so vast. You can go like you can have like I don't know how many talks about certain things, like topics. So I think we made it a bit combined it in a small package for everybody to reasonably understand, I think. So I hope everybody enjoyed this talk. And who knows, we're going to be talking about it later, how we're going to maybe do it again. So if so, then you will hear from us. And everybody, thank you very much. Thank you for being here. And thank you everybody online. And we'll be sharing this as well everywhere on our platforms. So thank